Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. We have another update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. I do have 2 pans and pretty decent progress on the other 3 in my quintet, so I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to start by showing you the color palette that I was working with for all of June. The first eyeshadow that I hit pan on that I want to share with you is probably no surprise. It's from my Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. I have been working on this pretty consistently for the past 3 or 4 months, and I finally have pan to show for it. It's this really beautiful light green metallic shade. I think I rolled this in April of this year. And just within this project, I have used this 40 times. I have used it previously, so I don't know exactly how many uses it took to hit pan, but it was obviously more than 40 times. There's something about this formula, it's just very creamy. You don't need a lot to get a lot of impact, and it is something that just wasn't really easy to hit pan on. I feel very accomplished to have it, and if I ever randomly choose any of the other shades from this palette, I know it's going to take me a long time to hit pan. And the next one is from my Modern Renaissance palette. I mentioned in my last update that I want to start trying to hit pan on all of the shades in my Modern Renaissance palette so that I can more easily pan this palette next year. Last month I had 6 pans left, so I chose from 1 to 6 to bring in 1 shade, and I'll work on 1 at any given time for the rest of the year. And the one I chose last month was Antique Bronze, which I had already had a pretty big dip on it, and it is something that I use all over the lid, on the lower lash line, and in the crease. It is a really nice one and done kind of look. So I use this quite a bit, but also these shades are some of the oldest in my collection. It's already kind of a powdery formula, so I wasn't surprised to hit pan. I did use this an additional 11 times to hit pan. And because I did hit pan on a shade from this palette, I will take one of the remaining 5 shades and randomly roll it into my quintet this month. The next shade I want to talk about is from my Too Faced Bonbons palette. It's the shade Molasses Chip. I pretty much only use this on the lid. I do mix it sometimes with other shades like I did today. I mixed it with another shadow that I'll talk about in a second. I use this an additional 9 times. One weird thing about this month is out of the 5 shades, I've used 2 of them 9 times and 3 of them 11 times. I've used all of them either 9 or 11 times, which is really odd. Usually it's not like that uniform. So this one I used an additional 9 times. I do use it wet, so there is a little bit of like a hard pan in there, but that's fine. Still usable. Really beautiful shade. I have no problem having it in for another month or 2, but I do want to try to focus on it since I did hit pan on the other metallic shade in my quintet, the Marvel shade. Now I can focus on this one all over the lid and hopefully have some better progress or even pan to share with you next month. The next 2 shades probably don't have like the most noticeable progress, but I am using them regularly, and I do feel like next month I'll show even more progress. The first one is a single from Makeup Geek. It is in the shade Hot Pants, which is a duochrome shade, and I have used this an additional 9 times. I really love using this on the lower lash line because it'll be purple and then it'll have like a slate blue shift or pinky shift depending on how I move my face, and I think that's really unique and fun, especially for the summertime. Sometimes I'll use it on the inner corner, but not really often, and I don't feel like this has a ton of impact on my actual lids, so I usually use a more shimmery or metallic shade on my lids and reserve this for the lower lash line. I think it's pretty. I think it's a really great time of the year to be wearing a shade like this, and I might have pan to share next month. I'm really not sure. It just depends on how often I wear makeup. I don't feel like I wore makeup as much as I normally do last month. So if I get back into the habit of wearing makeup regularly again this month, then I might have pan to share, but I'm not going to force myself to wear colors that I don't want to wear or force myself to wear makeup if I'm just not really in the mood. And the last one is from the ColourPop It's My Pleasure palette. This is in the shade Bare Minimum. It's a really beautiful dark plum, a little bit of a satin finish to it, and this is actually what I mixed in with that Molasses Chip shade from Too Faced. I have that on my lid today just to make kind of like a goldy purple color. I think it's really pretty. It makes it very wearable, really easy to apply. I used this 11 times. Sometimes I'd wear it on the lower lash line, sometimes I'd use it in the crease or to deepen up the outer third, and sometimes I would mix it with other shades to create kind of like a unique deeper shimmer for all over the lid. I don't think it looks like I used it 11 times, so I'll have to let you know next month month, if it's something that I decide to use 30 times and roll out, or if it is something that I feel I could realistically hit pan on within a decent amount of time. I don't have any bonus pans this month. I do have, I think, 2 shades that are getting close, so I might have some bonus pans to share with you next month, so we'll just skip over that segment. And the next segment of the video is pan percentage. Last month at the end of May, I had 43 pans out of 232 eyeshadows, meaning my pan percentage was 18.5%. At the end of June, as of today, I have 45 pans out of 232 shadows, meaning my pan percentage went up almost exactly 1%. It is now 19.4%. Now let's talk about some looks. In look number 1, I went for a very purple, warm look. I have that Bare Minimum shade from ColourPop, that deeper purple in the crease and on the lid, and then I topped it with Hot Pants from Makeup Geek. I think I tried to put molasses chip on the inner corner. In real life, it's too dark. I don't like it for that, so I didn't do that again. And then I put a gel liner on top. And if you're wondering what top I'm wearing, that's actually like a pajama top. It's like a house coat. It is not the cutest thing in the world, but it is so comfortable. It's one of my favorite things that I own, and you'll probably see it popping up in other looks coming up. Look number 2, my hair is wet. I decided to use Hot Pants on the inner third of the lid and then use Divinity on the outer third, and then I used Antique Bronze in the crease. Looking back, I don't love how cool toned my crease is compared to my lid. I just don't really feel like it looks that great in the photo, but I mean, some people like to do that. I like to mix cool tones and warm tones too, but I think that particular combo wasn't the best. And then I have Marvel from Tarte on the lower lash line. Look number 3, the house coat is back. I really focused on that Marvel shade. I used some of the darker greens from my Juicy Olive palette from Give Me Glow Cosmetics, and then I put Marvel all over the lid. And then I think I used Burnt Orange from the ABH Modern Renaissance palette on my lower lash line, just to add a little bit of like a warm brown to the look. Look number 4, I put Molasses Chip from Too Faced, that gold shade, all over the lid. And I put Bare Minimum in the crease, and then I think I put Antique Bronze on the outer lash line, but it really wasn't doing anything for me, so I put the Bare Minimum purple shade on top of that. Then I put Tarte Marvel on the inner corner, I put Molasses Chip on the lower lash line, and then I put a little bit of Hot Pants on the lower lash line as well to add a little bit more purple. Number 5 is the same look that I wore in my wedding dress try-on video. I used Tarte Marvel all over the first half of the lid and on the first half of the lower lash line. Then I used mostly Love Letter from the AVH palette, from the Modern Renaissance palette, in my crease and on the outer third. I put a little bit of Bare Minimum on top of that and on the lower lash line as well, and then I put a lot of liner and mascara. And look number 6, I pulled in my Stila Glitter and Glow in the shade Sea Siren. I have that all over the lid. I have Hot Pants on the inner third of my lower lash line, and then Divinity on the other half of the lower lash line. And then I have Antique Bronze in the crease, and I think a little bit on the outer third of my lid as well. It was actually my last time using the Sea Siren shade from Stila. It's just so dried up now. The formula is not salvageable anymore, so you'll see that in my future empties. And yeah, it was sad. I could barely get enough on my other lid. If you can see that, I could barely get enough on my other lid to finish the look. So those are my 6 looks, obviously very purple centric. I had a lot of purple pops in there, which I don't mind at all. Now, because I hit pan on 2 shades in my quintet, I'm gonna roll 2 in. I am gonna start with the ABH palette because I'm gonna be choosing one of the 5 shades. Some people asked how my ordering was for it last time because I chose number 6 last month and I chose Antique Bronze. The reality of it is I typed in the shades that I could remember I didn't have pan on yet, and then I went back and added the other shades that I had forgotten about that I hadn't hit pan on yet. So it was kind of just like a random typing in. I don't have them in alphabetical order or anything. My other shades in my list I do have in alphabetical order. I really didn't feel like it was super important to put them in any specific order because I'm randomly generating them anyway. So I have 5 shades left in my ABH palette that I don't have pan on yet, and I have in my Pretty Random app 1 through 5. So the first shadow I'm going to be adding to my quintet is number 2, and that is Love Letter. I'm already working with 2 other purples in my quintet, so that will either hurt or help me. Either they'll work really well together to complete looks, or they'll compete with each other so I can only use one at a time. I do have a pretty decent dip in there, but I'm guessing pretty much the majority of the looks that I create will need to be purple in order for me to make any good progress on these shades. Alright, now to choose the last shade, I'm going to pull that from any eyeshadow in my collection that I don't have pan in yet. So I have my random generator from 1 to 167, and the shade I'll be adding is 113. Okay, so surprisingly that's also from my Too Faced Bon Bon palette, and it's the shade Totally Fetch, which is this really hot pink satin shade right here. I'm gonna have like the warmest, most purpley pink eye looks for the next like 2 or 3 months. So let me go through and swatch these all in my hand and show you the quintet that I'm working with this month. Alrighty, so that is my quintet. A lot of purples, a lot of very, very similar shades. I have Molasses Chip by Too Faced, Hot Pants by Makeup Geek, Love Letter by Anastasia Beverly Hills, Bare Minimum by ColourPop, and Totally Fetch by Too Faced. I mean, this is a beautiful color story. I don't think I'm gonna have any problem. I do really like purple eyeshadows. It's just a lot of very similar tones. I do have one really easy metallic that would pair with all of them. Golds and purples look beautiful together, so I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. I think the only real outlier is Hot Pants, just because that is much more of like a cool toned bluey purple versus the other three. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to play around with. I've had tougher quintets in the past. Hopefully I can come up with enough different looks to share with you next month. Anyway, that is the end of my update. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. In the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.